I think the three words that describe mentoring to me are rewarding, exciting, and inspiring.
Rewarding's been said too many times. I think I'm going to go for fulfilling.
The main one would be revealing.
Mutually beneficial, although that's two.
Empowering and freeing.
Edifying and illuminating.
Enlightening and insightful.
The journey for me in being a mentor was wanting to pay forward to other people just like myself some 15, 20 years back.
So what I wanted to sort of get out the mentoring was basically almost an unfiltered view of the reality of the industry.
Having a mentor can really help boost your confidence and kind of find your way in an industry which can be very large and scary.
It's really quite interesting when you start to recount your own career history, some of the pitfalls that you've managed to navigate, avoid, or fall head into.
I think it might be the only way really that young people are gonna learn your core and key skills that you need to survive in this business.
By being a mentor, I'm almost a mentee at the same time. We are sharing experiences.
Mentoring has had an enormous impact on my career by making me feel less isolated and more confident.
It's a good way of getting free training for yourself and to sort of learn from them as you're hopefully passing on any knowledge that you might have.
The really interesting things that are going on right now, the way people are thinking, the different ways to interpret things. I find the whole experience really invigorating.
I genuinely feel that the experience has left me feeling a little bit better about who I am, what I'm doing and what I'm giving back.
If the screen industry in the UK had a mentoring culture, it would be a much stronger industry because we'd be able to learn from each other.
Hey, good morning, everybody, or rather good afternoon. I'd like to start off by saying this session is being recorded. So please can we have cameras off and microphones on mute for the session? Thank you very much. So like I said, good afternoon. Welcome to this S.O.U.L Fest session on mentoring. Mentoring can be powerful. The right mentor can inspire, give you valuable feedback and offer you a safe space to work through challenges and develop your ideas. Being mentored can help you develop as a professional and achieve career goals. But is it for you? How do you find the right mentor? And when you do, how can you make it work? Well, hopefully we at ScreenSkills, the UK skills body for the screen industries, including film, TV, animation and games, can help answer these questions. I'm Natalie Tando, Marketing and Communications Manager, and the sessions will be led by Jane Saunders, who's our ScreenSkills Mentoring Network Manager, and Kate Shalhoub, who's our Mentoring Relationship Manager. And we'll also be joined by some special guests along the way. If you're watching this live, please feel free to drop questions in the chat for us to answer at the end. Otherwise, we will share info with you so you can contact us after the event. Okay then, so let me hand over to Jane. But first of all, let me share my screen. So of course we can have her slides. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Natalie. And hello, everybody. We're going to talk to you about mentoring. First of all, we're going to focus a little bit on actually what mentoring is, and then we're going to think in more detail about how to find your own mentor. So if I could have the next slide, please, Natalie. What we're going to go through just very quickly is a definition of mentoring. I'm sure we all know what it is, but it'll just enable me to highlight a few points. And then we'll think about, as a mentee, what skills do you need to bring to the mentoring partnership to make sure that you're giving and getting the best from it. And then we'll talk about the benefits of mentoring. Why would anybody bother to be involved in it? And then we'll hear from our special guests about what it's really like to have a mentor. And then we'll move on to actually thinking about what do you need to do and what can you do to actually identify somebody who might be suitable and then where to find that particular person. And then we'll think about preparing for mentoring, and I'll give you some next steps. And then I'll hand over to my colleague, Kate Shalhoub, who will give you basically a tour of the ScreenSkills website. So that's what we've got planned for you. So in terms of the definition of mentoring, Natalie, if I could have, thank you so much. Mentoring, I'm not going to read it out to you, but you can see here that mentoring, it's not just a nice chat. And a nice chat can be jolly nice. It can go round in circles. It can be quite woolly, and it doesn't necessarily get anywhere. There's nothing wrong with a nice chat, but it's not mentoring. Mentoring is a proper professional learning and development intervention. And so what we're going to talk about here is mentoring and what you need to be doing in a mentoring partnership to make sure that it is mentoring and it's not just a series of nice chats. The key things to note really are that as a mentor, mentors maybe have this much experience in a specific field, and mentees maybe have this much experience in a similar field. And the key things are about that is that the mentor is willing and able to share their knowledge and their experience and their ideas. And the mentee, really key here, the mentee is clear and focused on how they want to grow, learn, progress and develop within the industry. And that's what we're going to unpick as we go through today. It is a two-way confidential partnership where both parties take part, and it is also a safe space. And so in the definition, you would have seen that I was talking about, there's a place of learning and development, but it's also a place of feedback and challenge, because I think what makes a good mentoring partnership become a great mentoring partnership is where mentee and mentor can agree that there will be feedback and challenge. I think that often as mentees, we can accept a lot more feedback and challenge from a mentor than maybe we can a parent, a teacher, or a boss, because it is that safe space that we've got with our mentor. But feedback and challenge can work both ways. You know, I would encourage you to actually give some feedback to your mentor as well, in terms of how the partnership is going and what you're wanting out of it, and maybe what the two of you could do differently. But you might want feedback on the first impressions you give. You might want feedback on how you come across or how you put your ideas across, for example. We'll talk more a little bit later on about how you can use mentoring. And mentoring, your mentor may challenge you. You know, for example, if I said to my mentor, oh, I could never speak to the director, or I'm not very confident in sharing my ideas with my team, then the mentor may say, well, share one of your ideas with me now. Or they may challenge me and say, well, what's stopping you talking to the director? Or what's the worst that could happen? So those are some examples for, in terms of mentoring, how feedback and challenge can be useful, because it enables us as mentees to maybe get some extra information from our mentor about us and our pieces of work maybe that we wouldn't get from anywhere else. So that's sort of what mentoring is. I'd like you to think now about some mentee skills. So if you could think just to yourselves initially, well, you can't think to anybody else, can you really? But think to yourself, first of all, around what are some of the key skills that might be qualities, behaviors, attitudes that you use a lot in a working situation. And what are some of those skills that you're very familiar with that you know are going to work well and bring into a mentoring partnership to make sure that you're giving and getting the best from a mentoring partnership? So what are some of the key qualities of great mentees? So maybe just have a think about that, jot some notes down. And if you're here live in the session today, please feel free just to jot a couple of notes in the chat area. What are some of the key skills and qualities of great mentees to make sure that you're giving and getting the best from the partnership? The sorts of things people typically say, again, please think to yourself, write them down, put them in the chat area. People typically say things like having good communication skills, maybe good listening skills as well. So you're really paying attention and focused in the conversation, but also you have questions prepared, you have a goal ready, you have topics to talk about, and you are organized as a mentee because you have to set the scene for mentoring. You have to be proactive and book the appointments and book the meetings with your mentor. You have to set the agenda. People also say, for example, be respectful of the mentor's time. People also talk about being in the communication skills and a little bit assertive here, maybe asking for clarity, you know, when a mentor is saying something, just checking in with them, you know, what do you mean by that? How does that relate to me? So being able to question and ask for feedback and challenge, but also asking for clarity of the things that they're saying. Also being proactive, as I've mentioned before, being organized and proactive. Also I don't know whether you might expect this or not, but mentoring isn't just about a mentor telling you what to do or telling you their life story. Mentoring is also about you coming up with ideas. It's about you being creative. It's about you being problem solving as well. So be ready to think for yourselves, and the mentors hopefully will prod you to be creative and come up with ideas. So there are lots of different skills that you are very familiar with that you use when you are in a working situation that you can use in a mentoring partnership as well. But let's think about, why would you bother to have mentoring? Let's think about the benefits of mentoring. So lots of benefits for mentees and mentors. A lot of them are the same. You know, developing our feedback skills and developing our communication skills, developing our relationship management skills, hearing from somebody else's perspective, learning from somebody else's experiences, learning from somebody else's creativity, you know, sharing ideas. So lots of benefits for both mentees and mentors, but mentors can benefit in other ways as well. So mentors can benefit because it can help them develop their leadership skills. It can also help them develop their abilities to have development conversations with their team and career conversations with their teams. It can also develop their abilities in talent spotting as well. So lots of benefits for mentees and mentors. And as you heard in our film, one of the mentees that we interviewed for that film, and also we have some e-learning modules on our ScreenSkills website, one for mentees and one for mentors. One of our mentees said that the sector and the industry would benefit from mentoring if there was more of it going on. It would be a happier and also friendlier and stronger place, because people would be meeting people who were not like them, meeting people they wouldn't normally meet, and sharing stories and sharing ideas and sharing experiences. So it would be a stronger industry if there was more mentoring going on. So that's a sort of bit of background about what mentoring is, but let's hear from real people about what mentoring is really like. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Natalie to interview some people who have been involved in or are currently involved in the S.O.U.L mentoring program.
Thank you, Jane. So I'd like to introduce my two guests. As Jane mentioned, they are currently part of the ScreenSkills Pro-Create mentoring program, which is run and led by S.O.U.L itself. So if I'd just like to have them introduce themselves, actually. Natalie, if I can start with you, could you let us know what role you do, what your department or area of specialism? Oh, Natalie, you're on mute, sorry.
Hello, my name is Natalie Edward-Yusufu. I'm the founder of production company Transition Stage Company, specialising in film, theatre, and now we're moving into documentary and factual format TV.
Thanks, Natalie. And Colin, can I ask the same question of you, please?
Okay, my name is Colin Charles. I'm a creative producer at African Futurist Arts. I've had a 20 years career in Africa as a creative director in an advertising agency, and I've come back and I think producing movies is the best thing I possibly could do, but I don't have any credentials, I don't have any contacts, and I don't understand the system here. And that's why I'm doing this mentorship.
Thank you very much, Colin. That answers my next question. I'll put that same question to Natalie as well then. Why did you want to become involved in the mentorship program?
Because I lived in the US as a producer and actress, and then when I moved back to the UK in Birmingham, I had to start all from scratch. I had know-how of how to do it, but it's just really getting that support from someone who is doing what I'm doing or knows about it and just guiding me.
Okay, thank you both. So I think what we're hearing very much is that you both identified a need and in order to sort of progress, and that's why you saw being mentored as a possible solution. So staying with you, Natalie, the mentoring process, I mean, you're halfway through the program right now. Is there anything particular that you are hoping to progress or grow as part of this period of being mentored?
Yes, and what's really about this mentorship is that what I've realised that you need to have resilience in this industry. It's quite challenging for everyone to keep going. And your mentor gives you problem-solving ideas. So it's a bit like a tennis match. It's not about them telling you what to do. It's about you tell them what you do and then like demystifying things. And as a producer and having my own company, I feel like you have a lot of plates spinning. But when you meet him and you're very specific with what you want, he will give you ideas to problem solve and get to the next level. So this mentorship's been amazing. I've excelled a lot quicker than what I thought I have in this pandemic than what I would normally.
Okay, thank you so much. And to move on to Colin, I mean, can we talk a little bit more about the actual meetings that you have with your mentor, be they virtual or in person? How do they go? What do you do? Do they give you any homework?
Yeah. I've got the same mentor as Natalie. His name is Nathan Adabadzi, and he's a film financier, and that's an area that's important to me. I came to this project with 6 of my own projects on my slate, and the first thing that Nathan did was to explain how financing works, which is something that I really needed to know. He also is introducing me to finance people. He's making me understand how sales agents works. He's introduced me to a couple of people already, and maybe in the next couple of months I've got some projects that need to speak to a sales agent, and he's preparing me for that. He's shown us the spreadsheets and how the money works, and he's also doing something else, and I'd have to agree with Natalie, keeping going. So every time we meet him, he does a kind of accountability. What did you say you were going to try and achieve last month? How's that going? And we do it all as a little cohort. And so I'm hearing what Natalie's doing. I'd have to say that having this cohort of people, there's our little group with Natalie, which are 5 of us, but then there's 50 other people. And this is very important for me, and probably for Natalie too. Landing in London or landing in the UK, let me say, and being able to have a whole bunch of people who you can rely on to do different things. And we're getting to know each other. We've started up our own WhatsApp group, and we're sharing opportunities. That's really useful. I've got to say there's something else that S.O.U.L is doing. They're doing these masterclasses. I hope I'm not answering your next question, Natalie. But we've had a masterclass with Steve McQueen. We've had a masterclass with David Upshaw, and those two showed me something that I didn't even know I needed to know. And that's how to be a producer that can look after your director. And your relationship with your director is such a mercurial and almost dangerous thing. You've got to protect your director from negative feedback. You've got to protect your director from money problems and logistical things. You've really got to, there's certain things I didn't know were in the system that now I know I need to learn more about.
That's great, Colin, because so what you're saying there is the mentoring sort of program is not just providing you the guidance that you're looking for, but there's a support network, there's the help of walking you through challenges and basically helping you to grow in terms of your own professional development. So talking about and staying with the process, swinging back to Natalie, from the work you've been doing and the conversations that you've been having with your mentor and your group, could you tell me a couple of mentoring do's, a couple of things that you should do in order for your mentoring partnership to be successful?
I think you have to be specific. So again, when you're producing, you're trying to get things off the ground, you do have multiple projects spinning in the air, but always be prepared to go to your mentor with your specific wants, because you can get sidetracked and you've got only a minimal amount of time where you want to get the best out of your mentor. And going off what Colin said about this group and this new community that we've built, I have excelled more in the pandemic than I would normally, because I've had a mentor and I've had this group as well. And what I've learned with my mentor is I've had to go back into my company, reshuffle it, and do a whole new business plan and an accountant. And having this mentor saved me a lot of time and just made me more organized.
That's brilliant. And for looking at the other way, the opposite direction, Colin, could you tell me a couple of mentoring don'ts, things you shouldn't do as part of your mentoring partnership, or things that you shouldn't expect from your mentoring partnership? Oh, you're on mute, Colin, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I've only got one don't, and I would say, don't sit back and expect your mentor to kind of lead the process. Always be coming, I mean, it was in our training at the beginning, but I think, you know, it needs to be reinforced at every stage. Be prepared when you're going to meet your mentor with stuff that you want to achieve and get out of it over the next month. Yeah, don't be a passenger, be a driver in the process. It's funny because you're the pupil, but you're the one driving the lessons and kind of creating the lesson plan.
That's brilliant, thank you. Swinging back to both of you, starting with Natalie. I know you're only halfway through the process now, maybe a little over halfway through the process, but so far, what would you consider the benefits you've had for taking part in the mentoring program?
In my opinion, the benefits actually have been the knowledge and implementing it into my business. The knowledge is being broadened. And I think with a lot of creatives, because we have so many creators that are really good at doing what they do, but they don't really understand business. And they take it personal, but they don't understand the wheels that go behind the business. So that's one point from my mentor that's been fantastic. And two, the network. I'm from the West Midlands and we get so forgotten about, you know, and what's been good about this pandemic among the mess that's been there is that I've been able to connect with other people from Birmingham and also other people that look like me too. So those are the two things that have been fantastic about this mentor program.
Perfect, thank you. And Colin, over to you with the same question.
Okay, like those guys in the film, if I was to give it one word, I would say useful. I think that I think network is a great word, Natalie, because that incorporates two things. I've been introduced with people who are in the system already, big people who have actually furthered my projects, but also those contacts who are also mentees. I think they will stay with me throughout my career, lots of them, including Natalie. Yeah, I think maybe the last one is confidence. Yeah, I think it's really brought a lot of confidence.
Thank you. And it's really great to hear two sort of working professionals, how they've sort of benefited from the mentoring process. So my final question to both of you, now that you've experienced mentoring yourselves, would you, when you finish the program, consider becoming a mentor yourself? Natalie, first of you.
Yeah. Yes, I do a bit of mentoring already, but I do mentoring with academic students. But I would definitely like to move into mentoring creatives and artists, visual artists, but more in the business aspect of things, because I think that is a section that is just not covered enough. So yes, definitely, I'm here.
Thank you. I can see Jane taking notes already. And Colin, the same question to you to close.
Yeah, like Natalie, I've mentored before. I've been mentoring for 20 years, really, in my career. But this is my first experience as a mentee. And I think my experience as a mentee is going to change how I mentor. And I think that slideshow that you sent me, Jane, right at the beginning on how to be a mentee, I've already been sending it to people to say, if I get you a mentor, you've got to do it like this. Yeah.
Love it. Love to hear it. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining us in this conversation. I think that is so valuable to people, to actually hear from people who are doing the work and benefiting from it as well. So thank you to you both. And now I am going to swing back to Jane to continue with the presentation.
Seamlessly done, Natalie. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I try.
And thank you to Natalie and Colin as well. I'm very grateful to you for, I can talk about the theory and stuff, but it's great to actually hear it from real people who are really experiencing it. So thank you very much. So my main message in terms of finding your own mentor is you do not have to be, can you see, is this big enough, this writing here? You do not have to be part of a mentoring program to have a mentor. It doesn't, even though it is a proper professional learning and development intervention, it can be an informal partnership. You don't have to be part of a program. So that's what we're going to talk about here is you, if you like, going it alone and trying to find somebody who is suitable for you. So the first step, well, I'm going to share with you a few steps in actual fact, and you don't have to do them in this order. They're just things to think about. So when you're trying to think about who might be suitable for to be a mentor for you, rather than thinking about the person themselves, what I would encourage you to do is to take a bit of a step back and think about the sorts of qualities you would want from a mentor. Now, the way I would suggest you do that is think about people who inspire you in your life, people who you're drawn to, or people who feel motivate you in your life. So it could be, people that you know, it could be people that you've worked with before, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be people that you've worked alongside in the past, or maybe people that you're working alongside now. Could be maybe people that you studied with in the past. I don't know, maybe an old teacher, a teacher from the past. Or it could be people that you read about or you hear about. They might be award winners, or you might see their names in credits at the end of films or TV programs. Or maybe they're people that you read about on the news, or it could even be people who, people who aren't real people. Maybe it could be characters. The example I often give is that, for example, if you know the Lord of the Rings books or the Lord of the Rings films, I'm very drawn to the Aragorn character. Not because in the films he's, quite easy on the eye, but far more because of his qualities of being loyal and being determined and brave, and he's going to fight for those hobbits come what may. So what I would encourage you to do first of all is not that these people are going to be your mentors, but think about who inspires you, who motivates you now or in the past. Be people that you know, people that you read about, or maybe people who are just fictional characters. And then the next step, once you've identified some of the people that you are drawn to, the next step is to think about some of their qualities, their personal and their professional qualities. So as I mentioned before with the Aragorn character, I'm drawn to his loyalty and his determination. If I could have the next slide, please, Natalie. Think about all the qualities of these people who motivate you and inspire you. And you might want to take a bit of time to do this, because you might suddenly think, oh yeah, well, there was that person I used to work with, or there was that person, when I was a little bit younger, or when I was doing a different sort of job, or when I was in full-time education. So think about all the different personal and professional qualities of these people who inspire you and who you are drawn to, and then write them down. Again, there's a lot of what I'm going to be saying here I'm going to encourage you to actually write down. So over a period of time, create a list of qualities that you would like from a mentoring partner. And there are just some examples here. Obviously, you need to have ones that are appropriate to you and what you want to use mentoring for. Now, I have a bit of bad news for you, so I hope you're sitting down and just sort of feeling quite calm. Superheroes are not available. They've all been taken. So whilst these might be the qualities you're looking for from a mentoring partner, it's unlikely there will be one person who will have all of these qualities that you're looking for at the moment. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, next slide please, Natalie, is to, from that long list that you've got of qualities of your superhero mentor, is to actually break it down into two sections. Maybe one section that has maybe 5 or 8 qualities, mega maximum, of must-haves. So the most important things that you're looking for from your mentoring partner, and then all the rest can just be nice to haves. And this can be quite useful because it starts helping you to become focused on what you want to use mentoring for. And I mentioned that as one of the key skills earlier on. But also it can be quite useful because when you start to meet people, you know, maybe things like S.O.U.L Fest, for example, or, you know, when you're maybe talking to other people about wanting a mentor or looking for a mentor, you can maybe think in your head and think about, do these people that I'm meeting, do they actually meet some of my must-haves? How many of them do they meet? Do they actually have some of the nice-to-haves as well? So it doesn't make it sort of scientific, but it just adds a little extra bit of layer into when you're meeting people, whether you think they might be suitable. And also if you're talking to people who you feel comfortable to talk about that you're looking for a mentor, maybe to ask that person to help you find somebody or to recommend somebody, you can say, well, I'm looking for a mentor. You know, the sort of things I'm looking for is that they've got determination, they've had triumph over adversity, or they're skilled in a particular field. So you can give the person you're asking to help you look for a mentor, you can give them a bit of idea of the sort of person you're looking for. So it can be quite useful to do this, both for yourself and for others who may help you look for mentors as well. So if I could have the next slide, please, Natalie. So where would you go to look for a mentor? You know, the world is your oyster, basically. So it's probably a little bit easier in these days, I don't just mean in COVID days, but in these days than it was maybe quite a few years ago, because you've got such a lot of stuff that we can do online at the moment. So in terms of thinking about where could you look for a mentor, you've got the qualities. Where could you go and look for somebody? You know, think about your network. Think about the network that you've currently got, all those people who are around in your current network. That might be, you know, people that you've worked with in the past, be they managers or colleagues. It might be people that you met when you were in full-time education or when you were doing some sort of professional course. So it might be other participants, it might be speakers, it might be trainers, maybe teachers if we're going way back, maybe family and friends, but it also may be your existing professional contacts. It also may be people that you've read, maybe they've authored an article in a magazine or they've authored some sort of a book, I don't know, whatever. Maybe award winners, you know, if you're thinking about people maybe a little bit beyond your existing network, and thinking all the time, what are the qualities you're wanting from your mentor and applying it to these people here, and then just people generally that you admire. And you might be able to find them through, for example, LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or whatever it may be. So think about your network and who might be suitable. I mean, it may be that you've got someone's name in mind already. That's great, but you may not have somebody's name in mind. But if you do, that's fab. But if you don't, have a think about your network and think about who might be suitable. And what you might want to do, as I mentioned earlier on, is maybe talk to other people, maybe tap into some existing colleagues or maybe previous colleagues, and maybe mention to them that you're looking for a mentor and tap into their network. Who might they know who could maybe help you and be a mentor? And you've got your little list of qualities as well that you could share with those people. So try to sort of think about not just your network, but reaching out to existing colleagues. What about previous colleagues? You know, where have they gone? Who do they know? What about colleagues that you're working with now or you've worked with recently? Where did they come from? What's their experience? What network might they have? People that you've met at S.O.U.L Fest, people that you've met at other events, you know, how could you tap into their networks as well? What's that 6 degrees of separation we say, don't we? I think with the online stuff, I think, is it 3.5 degrees of separation? So, you know, expand your questioning around how to find your actual potential mentoring partner. What's the worst that can happen is when you approach somebody that they're going to say no, or they don't get back to you. So it's worthwhile thinking about how to approach somebody. I think often email seems to be sort of a good way to do that, but you can direct message people through some of these social media platforms, for example. And you might sort of want to say, you know, why you're contacting them, or why you're drawn to them, what you admire about their work, for example. Whether you say you want them to be your mentor or not, first of all, would be up to you. You might think that might frighten somebody off. So maybe what you do is you have a nice chat with somebody. I will allow a nice chat in the first instance, but if you are going to move on to mentoring, then you probably would need to talk to them a little bit more formally about how that might work. And you would need to be much more concrete in what it is you want from mentoring. So let's have the next slide, please, Natalie. So in terms of when you are reaching out to people and maybe you're asking them ultimately to consider being a mentor, when I've worked with mentors before, they have two things they often say about mentoring is, I haven't got the time, I'd love to do it. Or they say, I've got all the time in the world, but actually I don't quite know how to do it. So when you are talking to potential mentors, think about and be really clear with them how long you're looking for. Our ScreenSkills mentoring program is 6 hours over 6 months. So on average, it's about an hour a month. I say that was probably pretty typical of mentoring programs. So you might sort of say to your mentor, oh, it'll be about an hour a month. That's what you would ideally like. If they say, well, I haven't really got that time, you might say, well, what about half an hour every 3 weeks? Or maybe we could try the lunchtime or before or after work, or I know some people prefer to do something at a weekend. It doesn't always work for everybody. Obviously, we've got very used to phone and video meetings these days. But again, you know, could maybe do a sort of confirm with them that we wouldn't have to necessarily meet up. If you are doing things online, as I'm sure you've come to know over the last sort of 18 months or so, your circle of who could be a mentor is much wider, because you could maybe be based in the southwest of this country and your mentor could be based in the north of Scotland, etc. So your what's the word I want? The number of people who could be suitable is much bigger, because you could have somebody from all over the country. If someone says, I'm really not sure about this, you could say, well, what about if we piloted it, just tried it for 3 months, see how it goes. And then if they say, no, I can't do it now, but you think, well, I really want this person, because you are the most important person in the partnership. So if you really want this person, try and say, well, if now isn't a good time, when might be a good time? And if they're still saying no, then maybe move on to somebody else. But it's worth just fighting your corner for a bit. And then if they say that they're not really quite sure how to be a mentor, then share your reasons with what it is you want from mentoring and the reasons why you approach them. So you're sort of encouraging them to say yes. Maybe share some skills of great mentees and great mentors. I mentioned some a little bit earlier on. And if you look at our e-learning modules, you'll pick up some skills of mentees and mentors as well. Maybe discuss what the benefits are for both of you. And again, we talked about that earlier on. And then, of course, you could watch our e-learning modules together if you wanted to. But if you do find somebody and they're willing to work with you, then as a pair, as a ready-made pair, you could join our ScreenSkills mentoring program. And through that, and this may be really helpful, maybe not just for you, but absolutely for mentors, is on our ScreenSkills mentoring program. Even if you join as a ready-made pair, we offer hour-long webinars specifically to one for mentors, one for mentees, really focusing on what you need to do more than what I'm saying here at the moment, but what you need to do as a mentor or a mentee to get the best out of the partnership. We also talk about how you can contract with each other and maybe deal with problems and queries as well. So manage your mentor's expectations, and then hopefully once you find somebody, you can join our program as a ready-made pair. If you do approach somebody in a cold calling way, that is absolutely fine to do. I would maybe try contacting them 3 times. And if they don't get back to you or they say no, move on and ask somebody else. The best way ideally is to get somebody that you maybe already know or have a contact with, or maybe get a personal introduction. Those are the really good ways, but you can cold call. What's the worst that can happen? As I said before, they say no, so you move on. So Natalie, may I have the next slide, please? I don't know whether you want to take a screenshot of this or a photograph of this, but this just gives you a snapshot overview of how a mentoring partnership may work, and sort of highlights, I guess, each mentee and mentor, your responsibilities in the conversations. So it may be that in this circle bit in the middle here, that these are when you're having your, your 6 one-hour meetings, or you might agree to have 4 one-hour meetings over 4 months or whatever it is. So, sort of have a think about this, and then when you get to your final meeting, sort of review overall progress and how it's gone. But you can see here that the mentee, you're the proactive person. You need to outline the agenda. You need to arrange the meetings with the mentor. And the mentor will help you generate ideas and choices and possibilities. And they will also, absolutely, that's what they're there for. They won't just make you think, but they will also share their ideas and their experiences as well. So you end up with a rich pick and mix of lots of different things that you've come up with and they've come up with. And then hopefully together you'll identify maybe 1 or 2 takeaways that you can then move forwards outside of the mentoring meetings, and then come back to the next meeting. May I have the next slide, please, Natalie? So what sort of things can you focus in on in your mentoring conversations? You might want to hear their story, their achievements or challenges, particularly if they're similar to yours, and maybe how they overcame them. You might want to develop in a specific area, for example, or you might want to be made more aware of opportunities that are available to you. You might want to get general careers advice. You might want to receive feedback, challenge and stretch, which I would really encourage. I think, again, that is what makes a good mentoring partnership become a great mentoring partnership. You might want to discuss a problem, a challenge, or maybe something that is stopping you moving forwards, and maybe brainstorm what you can do about that. You might want to focus on some of your longer or shorter term career goals, touch on those in just a moment. You may want to shadow your mentor or maybe be introduced to their contacts. That is not always possible for every mentor to do. So whilst it's a nice to have, and some mentors think it is absolutely their responsibility to do that, that's not always possible. So that's a bit of a nice to have. May I have the next slide, please, Natalie? Thank you. So I talked about, what can you get out of mentoring? Now, if you have a career goal that you want an Academy Award, or you want a BAFTA nomination, or maybe you just want a job. Those things are fantastic career goals. They keep us motivated. They keep us focused on where we want to get to. They also keep us really aware and alert of the things that we can pick up, if you like, the clues and the little prizes that we can pick up along the way to get to that career goal. But those things I mentioned are not within the gift or the power of you and your mentor together. So you'll need to maybe, if those are your sort of goals, your topics, your agendas for mentoring, break them down into bite-sized chunks, break them down into things that are realistic, that you and your mentor can achieve together. So absolutely, as I mentioned before, be proactive, be focused. What is it you want to achieve from mentoring that might take you some steps towards achieving your career goals, or maybe achieving them or exceeding them, be they the first short step or maybe a little bit further forwards. So absolutely be realistic in what you're wanting out of mentoring and how you judge how successful it is. So may I have the next slide, please, Natalie, my wonderful assistant at this stage. Thank you. So some of you might have come across SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think it comes from the marketing world. So if you're involved in marketing, you may be very familiar with this. But I would encourage you to do this as a mentee. And again, all the things I've been saying here, you can do in any order you like, whatever works best for you, because maybe you want to do this first before thinking about who might be a suitable mentor. So you can see here that these strengths and weaknesses, they're not just what you're good at and what you're bad at. So again, you might want to take a screenshot of this, but populate those top 2 quadrants with the things that you wanted to focus in on in those 2 areas. And then with opportunities, it's not just about thinking about what opportunities are there for you to develop in the areas that you want to develop, your weaker areas. It's really been proven, and there's been lots of research that shows that if you can work more to your strengths, you are more successful and more motivated. So think about opportunities of course, for your areas of development and weakness, but also for you to develop your strengths as well, to maintain them, to share them, to get them ready for your next step. As the industry is changing, what do you need to change in your strengths so that you are relevant all the time? And then think about some of your threats and blocks. And then you might find your topics for mentoring tumble out of doing this particular activity. And with threats and blocks, by the way, sometimes if we can flick a little switch in our head and see these as opportunities in some way, it makes us more, it does something to our brains, it makes us more resourceful. So I just give that as a bit of an extra tip there. So Natalie, may I have the next slide? If you did that, by the way, you might want to share that with your mentor. Gives them a bit of an overview of where you are. But for you, it might help you identify your goals. It might help identify where you are at the moment. And it might give you a bit of a helicopter view of your development. Anyway, next steps. We'll have questions at the end of the whole session. But start, if you're looking for a mentor, just start somewhere. Focus on the element that maybe has resonated most for you. Maybe find a buddy to bounce ideas off. Think about the qualities that you bring as a mentee. Think about the qualities of what you want from your mentoring partner. Maybe identify somebody. I've given you some hints and tips there. And then prepare what it is that you want to focus in on. Again, because it's not about the mentor just speaking about themselves. It's what you want to focus in on. And think how maybe that SWOT tool could be useful for you. So that's just a quick run through of how you could find your own mentor, because you don't have to be part of a mentoring program to have a mentor. So I'd like to hand over now to my colleague, Kate Shalou, who is going to talk about what other resources are available on our ScreenSkills mentoring pages. Thank you, Kate.
Lovely. Thank you, Jane, for the introduction. So as Jane mentioned, my name is Kate Shalou. I'm Mentoring Relationship Manager at ScreenSkills. And after learning lots about mentoring there from Jane and Natalie and the two mentees that kindly joined us, we thought it could be useful to share other resources and programs and interventions that are available on the ScreenSkills website for you to support your development. So just to bring it back to basics about who exactly we are, as Natalie mentioned at the very beginning, ScreenSkills is the industry-led skills body focusing on film, TV, animation, visual effects and games, and covering the whole of the UK. So what we work to do is we identify skills gaps, both current and what we think are future, and this informs the type of programs and opportunities we run. We provide careers information, and I'll show you a bit more on that on the website shortly. And we also map and quality mark professional pathways, and this is particularly important for those who are looking to enter the screen industry. And lastly, more broadly, we support development no matter what career stage you're at. So it's not just about entry level. In fact, we work across 4 career stages, and that's entry, early, experienced, and expert. So mentoring is part of what is known as the Future Film Skills project. So this is a BFI National Lottery funded 5-year action plan that is being delivered by ScreenSkills. And basically what happened a couple of years ago is that there was a lot of research into skills gaps and shortages in the industry, and also into those groups that are underrepresented traditionally in screen. And 10 different areas were outlined to help sort of improve things across those areas. So as part of the action plan, we've got things like award financial bursaries, deliver training to people, offer mentoring, have an accreditation system, and various other points. And what I'll do now is I'm going to take over share screen from Natalie, and I'm going to take you onto the ScreenSkills website and show you exactly where you can access some of this support. So hopefully now you are seeing a whole load of pink. Welcome to the ScreenSkills website. When we were rebranding a couple of years ago from Creative Skill Set to ScreenSkills, there was a lot of talk about what color we would use. And I believe that orange was in the running, but focus groups thought that it reminded them too much of Sainsbury's. So instead we've got this bright pink color, which as someone who wears a lot of navies, grays and blacks, took me a while to get used to. but I now find it quite cheery. So hopefully you feel the same, because you'll be seeing a lot of it on our website when you visit. So for anybody coming to our website, the first thing that I would recommend you do is go to the top right-hand corner here where it says login. And if you don't yet have a ScreenSkills profile, this will give you the opportunity to register with us. So when you're doing that, you'll be able to tick exactly which newsletters you want to receive. And these go across various areas of TV, so including high-end television, children's television. There's also newsletters in film, and there's newsletters in animation. And as soon as you're signed up for them, it means that when these programs or tenders or various opportunities are launched, you'll get that information straight to your inbox. So I'd really recommend that you do that as a first step when you come to our website. Now, just looking at the top here at the navigation toolbar, I'm going to start on starting your career, which if a lot of you aren't at entry level, you might think is totally irrelevant to you. But so many people in the screen industry, despite being at a more experienced career stage, can really benefit from some of the tools in this section of the website. So that can be for yourselves, or perhaps if you're a mentor or if you're a manager, it can be also helpful for the person that you're supporting. So I'm going to draw your attention to two particular sections. And the first is our job profiles, which I think are really brilliant. They are updated regularly by people in the industry, or consultation with sort of experts in the industry. And they're really good for demystifying different departments and job roles within Screen. So for example, say if you were about to work with an editor and you weren't quite sure of what exactly their role was, or you wanted to move into being an editor, this is where you could search in the toolbar here for exactly what they do. So I've typed in editor. I'm going to go to editor in film and drama, because that's a particular area I want to get into, or that's someone I'm about to work with. And you can see here that this page is devoted to tell you exactly what an editor does. You can scroll down and you can actually watch, learn from someone who's actually working as an editor in the industry. Really importantly, you can find out what an editor is good at. So that means you can assess your current skills if you want to become an editor and see where there's some match up, or you can think about what skills you need to develop if you're to move into editing. Really usefully, it shows who an editor works with. So perhaps, what you have to do before becoming an editor, or who you can expect to have to get along with, and who might be good to network with. And then if you decide that you want to take the next step to become an editor, you click here and you're told exactly which sort of qualifications you might need, or whether you can do a short course, or whether something like building a network or becoming a trainee could be the next best step for you in becoming an editor. So there are plenty of job profiles out there. I've just picked one as an example, and I'd really encourage you to have a look around there if you're thinking of making a career move, or you want to simply know more about different job roles in different screen sectors to you. Back in starting your career, I'd also like to draw your attention to First Day on Set. This is a great video that was basically developed for those who might be stepping on set for the first time, or supporting somebody who's about to do that. When you play the video, you'll be greeted by a third AD who will take you through the various departments on a working sound stage. So you get to meet people from working in camera, in lighting, in costume, etc. And again, this is just breaking down barriers, demystifying our industry for people who may not have had the chance to be on set before. Now, skipping across, I'll come back to developing your career in a second, but in training on opportunities, this is basically the section of our website where you can sign up for or apply for something that might be happening maybe a little bit in the future. So this is where we have all of our events and our programs and our trainings that might be taking place in the coming months. What's really useful is that you can filter on the left-hand side here. So if you want to go to an event or you want to apply for some training, you can filter as such. You can filter by subject, really importantly by industry. Career stage as well is another area you can filter by. And then cost. A lot of our courses might be partially or fully funded by ScreenSkills. And indeed, there could be bursaries available for some of them out there too, so do check that out. Moving across now to information and resources. I think the best way to describe this as is an area where you can access things immediately. So it's not things you need to apply for that's happening in the future. This is where you find things like e-learning modules, case studies, so you can hear a bit more about people who've done it themselves, or things like lesson plans if you're working with students, or careers maps. So again, similarly here, you can filter depending what's of interest to you, depending on your career stage. And for example, I'll just show you our e-learning modules, which have been developed over the last year and a half. We've got one on unconscious bias, another one on coronavirus basic awareness training. We've got some on bullying and harassment, and 2 mentoring ones, one for mentees and one for mentors. So do check them out, they're really useful. And you can add them to your LinkedIn. Going back now to developing your career, this is a section of the website that is relevant to, I would argue, anybody visiting. So a couple of things to just pick out of here. Mentoring, you've heard lots from Jane already, but if you're to go off now and find your own mentor and want to have some tools to do that, you can visit our mentoring page, scroll down until you get to our resources, which are free to download. And these sort of things are exactly what will help mentoring not be a nice cup of coffee and a nice chat. You can download an action plan, a session log, various briefings and guides to make sure you're giving and getting the best out of mentoring. Back into developing your career, I would also really recommend you check out the Continuing Professional Development section, or CPD as we call it. This will help you assess what career stage you're at, and really try and figure out what kind of programs or skills development you can do to take you to your next career stage or your next level in your job. And the last thing I'll finish on is our bursary guidelines, because this is always really popular, whether you're a mentor or a mentee, this might be something we can help you out with. So I'm going to go straight to my notes because I have spoken to our bursaries colleagues and they have given me some top tips, which I know is always of interest to people. So exactly from the bursaries team, they have let me know that bursaries are open until March 2022. They want to give screen professionals at various career stages support by awarding funding towards areas such as cost-effective reusable equipment, skills-specific short courses, accommodation, travel, food costs, and wet weather gear for either a short-term job or a training course. Just to make you aware that those who are at an early stage in their career or above can now apply for driving lessons, which is exciting. Unfortunately, they're not available to support entry-level applicants with driving lessons at the moment, but as long as you are early or above, you can apply for them. The bursaries department are also not funding the cost of international courses at the moment, and that is largely due to coronavirus restrictions. And then some top tips from the bursaries team to give you the best chance of gaining a bursary. So do read these guidelines here, familiar yourself with that. Have a look at the skills shortage areas on ScreenSkills website, as this is something they prioritize. Think about what you really need now to develop your career rather than in the future. And then please choose a cost-effective amount, and there's lots of information on that in these bursary guidelines on our website. So it's nearly time now, so I'm going to pass back to Natalie, but just want to wish everybody good luck if you are applying for a bursary or applying for a ScreenSkills program, and good luck in developing your career.
Thank you so much, Kate. I nearly forgot to unmute myself. So thank you so much to the team. We've kept that exactly to time. So I'd like to thank once again, Kate, Jane, Colin, and Natalie for joining us. I'd like to thank S.O.U.L Fest for having us once again. And of course, thank you to all of you for watching. If anybody has any questions they would like to direct to us, Jane mentioned earlier in the chat that we have a dedicated mentoring email address, so you can direct questions at us. That is mentoring info@screenskills.com. And please feel free to direct anything that way and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you once again to all of you watching and enjoy the rest of the fest. Thank you.